pertaining to any matter that we have, questions on or concerns about. The questions are asked anonymously. That way, if it's something personal, nobody has to know who asked the question. We do serve both, food and dessert at the program, so we'd love to see you there every Friday and Saturday following the English program in the North Hall. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As many of you know, we do have a library or a bookstore here in the masjid, in the masjid, right to my left. The sisters and brothers have been working very, very hard on updating the book selection in there, what we sell in there, and what we have. So if you have time to check it out, inshallah, after the program, we'd love to see you there. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome our dear brother and scholar, Sheikh Aus Asfar, with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. ثانية على حب الحسن والحسين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل. ثالثة على حب سيدة نساء العالمين بأعلى أصواتكم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the chapter of Al-Isra, verse number 23. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهُ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed that you should not worship anyone except for He. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And that you should treat your parents righteously. Then Allah continues and says, إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا. He says, and they may grow old in your presence. فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. Do not say to them, uff, not even sigh, if they say something to you that you dislike or you disagree with. And certainly do not put them down. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. And say to them only honorable words. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our topic today is family and kinship. In order to tackle such a topic, it's important for us to, again, look at every topic that we go through. We have to look at it from 3 perspectives. What does our intellect tell us, logically speaking? What do the academics tell us? Is there any research out there, case studies that can benefit me in the human knowledge base? And lastly, I need to look at Islam. What does my religion tell me? What does Allah tell me, and what do Ahl al-Bayt tell me? For surely we were able to prove not only the existence of Allah, right, but we proved prophethood and imamat in that session where we proved why we are Shia. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. Good. If I could get some water, shabab, Allah yarda alaykum. Thank you. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we start with the logical discourse. And we start always with what? With Tawheed, right? So you're going to help me go through this. We said the creator of something is greater than what they create. Ahsant Haj. And therefore the creator of all of limitation is greater than limitation, and therefore he is unlimited. Ahsantum, well done. So that means then that he neither has a nor an. He always existed. Ahsant. He always therefore existed and will always exist. Ahsantum. That means that he's constant and unchanged. Ahsantum, Sayyid Ali. So after that we said, okay, based on that, that means that He knows all things, that He sees all things without the need of eyes, and He hears all things without the need for an auditory apparatus, right? We said that He is also all-purposeful, and since He is all-perfect and He gave me my existence, then how worthy am I of existing? A little or a lot? A lot, exactly. How valuable am I to Allah? Very valuable. Ahsantum. Where do I get my self-worth and my self-esteem from? Do I need human beings to verify and to give me a stamp of approval, or is it Allah alone that I need? Ahsantum, well done, good job. So then that means that since Allah is all perfect, because He has no flaws, and flaws are what? Limitations. Well done, sisters. Sisters are beating out the brothers. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So that means that Allah is all wise and He's all just, right? So based on that, I'm going to say, all right, now let me apply this to my family structure, right? Now, who gave me my parents? Ahsantum. So how important then are my parents, logically speaking? It is out of Allah's benevolence. I want you to say this word with me 3 times. The word is benevolence. Say it with me. Benevolence. One more time. Benevolence. Last time. Benevolence. Good job. Don't forget that word. Benevolence means that Allah gives you what you need, even if you don't know that you need it. In Arabic, the word for benevolence is lutf. What's the Arabic word? Lutf. One more time. A 3rd time. Ahsantum. So we set those neuronal pathways right there. Minimum of 3 times, right? Right, Nimr? Got it? Good. Okay, so now the next thing that I have to do is I say, okay, since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew that I needed parents and He gave them to me, then He valued them enough, right? He valued them enough and valued me enough to give me people who are able to not only bring me to this world, but to help me thrive in this world. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. So that means then that the fact that my parents were given to me by Allah, then how worthy and how valuable should they be to me if they are that valuable and that worthy to Allah? After Allah, logically speaking, right? And even before I know Allah on this earth, who do I know and get to know first? Your parents. When a baby first comes out and they cry, they only go silent when they're placed on the chest of their mother, or they hear the voice of their father. This is out of the benevolence of Allah. Even though we don't even realize it, Allah has programmed us in a manner that we instinctually gravitate and have an affinity towards our parents. Subhanallah. Can you say it with me? Subhanallah. So since Allah placed these individuals in my life, then I must honor them and value them. Why? Because Allah chose for them to be the ones who would teach me how to eat, how to drink, how to speak, how to walk, right? How to crawl before that, right? They're the ones that educated me. They're the ones that took me to school in my first days, right? They're the ones that as I was growing, they watched me, and if I fell and hurt myself, it's as though you cut their heart open. Am I right, Hajjah? You're going to make me cry. Stop crying. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Crying is good. It's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Emotions are good. They're from Allah. But you're going to make me cry too. Okay? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. You see, this instinctual, emotional affinity and attachment that I have to my parents is one that is innate and inborn in me. And that is out of the benevolence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanallah. And every single creature, by the way, out there searches for that individual or that being that will give it that guidance. Even if a little chick comes out of its egg, the first that it sees, the first thing that it sees that moves, it will automatically think that that's its mother and it'll walk after it, right? Ducklings are the same. You notice how ducklings walk behind their mother wherever she goes? Subhanallah. Right? There's this innate understanding. When a kitten is born, when a puppy is born, they automatically gravitate towards where? Towards their mother, subhanallah. Right? This is instinctual, and you can imagine that since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with these intellects that far exceed the instinctual abilities that other animals have, because they allow us to reason, right? And to understand specific realities and to analyze certain things in the world that I need to analyze in order to grow and to become a better human being, that these would become the guides that would help me learn how to analyze the world, that would teach me manners, that when people would see me act, they'll say, Alf rahma ala waldik. That even if I give a little cup of chai to someone, right, when they come as guests to our home, they say, Alf rahma ala bayak, right? Alf rahma ala immek. How well they did in teaching you manners, right? Logically speaking, there is this logical need then for a parent as a guide, right? But not only that, what do we find then? We find also that Allah blesses us, not all of us, but some of us, with siblings. How many of you have siblings here? Small, right? How many of you don't have siblings but wish you had siblings? Small, so everybody has siblings, inshallah. So, siblings are given to us by whom? By whom? By Allah. So how important are our siblings then? How worthy are they of our time? لك روح ما عندي وقت هسه. لك يا أخي, I've got homework, leave me alone. لك يا أمي, he keeps bugging me. لك حل عني. Right? Familiar words? Are those the words of someone who really recognizes and understands the value that a sibling truly has? I look deep within myself and I ask myself that question. Have I done that to my own siblings? Because that's really what the month of Ramadan is about, right? It's about self-reflection. It's about instilling change within ourselves. Finding the errors that we have in code, right? Remember what I said? I said there's these little snippets of code within us, right, Alex? That are a result of bad behavioral patterns that we attained as we grew up. Maybe we saw our cousins act that way, or we saw our uncles treat each other that way, right? Or maybe no, we just decide to act that way. But is it the right way to act? Ahsantum. It's not the right way to act. And in actual fact, if you think about it, it's exactly like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving you a blessing and you doing what? Rejecting it. Really think about that. Am I right or am I wrong? If I'm right, tell me I'm right. You know I love hearing that I'm right. It's truly profound what realities you can uncover with just a little contemplation and reflection and simple examples. If I come to you and I give you a plate of food, right? And that plate, I put so much TLC in it, right? I took my time to prepare it for you, and I gave it to you, and I know that this is something that I am honoring you with. And what do? You say, ما بدي. خويا ما أريد. outright rejection. Would I do that with someone? If I go to their home and they give me a beautiful platter, a stranger, would I do that? So why do I do it with Allah when He gives me such a beautiful blessing of a sibling, a brother or a sister? Why is it that I give more time to my friends than I give to my siblings? Why is it that my friends are appreciated more than my own siblings? But Shaykhna, they're so annoying. They keep nagging and nagging and nagging. Right? You ever think and wonder why they would be nagging? Let's just reflect a little. What do you guys think? Why would your siblings be nagging? They want attention. Ahsan. Barakallah bik. What's your name? Hussein. Ahsan. That's exactly right. Once I give them attention, what happens then? Will they continue to nag? No. Okay, maybe a little. Right? But that's probably because I haven't given them enough time or enough attention. So let's move on to the academic perspective. Because now we understand the importance of our parents from an intellectual and rational standpoint. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. And now we understand that how we should be dealing with our siblings is really dictated by how we see Allah, meaning our relationship with Allah. If I recognize that my Lord gave me this sibling for a reason, right? Because Allah is all purposeful, right? He does everything for a reason. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. So that means then mistreating him is outright rejection and unrighteous behavior. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. So now I have to make that conscious intellectual decision within myself to make that change, as we mentioned, right, yesterday. That there has to be that change that has to be initiated from deep down within me, right? I have to talk to my subconscious, as the academics say. I have to talk deep within myself, but I have to ask Allah to allow me to see my behaviors before they happen so that I can make adjustments in the pattern. Make sense? To snip that code, right? And you know, you should always do this. And I've done it myself, and I wouldn't tell you this unless I've done it. And none of the information I'm giving you, by the way, I'm just preaching to you. Everything that I'm talking about, I've done for myself, and I've taught my kids as well. Right? So don't think that, you know, the Prophet ﷺ, and this is just a side story. We've heard the story probably before. I heard it here when I used to pray in the mosque here before I went to Hawza years back. From probably this very minbar, I heard this story. And the story was that the Prophet ﷺ was approached by a woman. And the woman wanted the Holy Prophet to tell her son to stop eating dates. He just eats too many dates. A week passes by, another week passes by, the Prophet doesn't talk to this young boy. The mother comes to him and says to the Holy Prophet, "Why didn't you talk to him?" He said, "Because I myself was eating dates. So I cannot preach to someone when I'm not doing what you're asking me to do." Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, "Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu lima taquluna ma la taf'alun. Kabura maqtan 'inda Allahi an taqulu ma la taf'alun." O you who believe, why is it that you say that which you do not do? Surely it is hated by Allah for you to say that which you do not do. And so I wouldn't do that, you know, from this minbar. I wouldn't want it for me, and I certainly wouldn't want it for you. Imam Ali says, "Ibghi li akhaka aw li akhika ma tabghi li nafsik." Want for your brother or sister in faith what you want for yourself. So this is why I'm sharing this information with you, right? It's a personal journey that we're taking together, if you've noticed. Right, Hajjah? It really is. It's a personal journey that we're going on together in these nights. Do you agree? If you agree, say I agree. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now let's move to what the academics say. Now, if you go to psychology today, what you'll actually find is that they tell you that families or individuals who grow up in families are more well adjusted than those who don't. Meaning, socially speaking, they're more adjusted. In terms of their self-esteem, they tend to be more well adjusted in comparison to others. But you might say, but Sheikhna, what about dysfunctional families? Yes, I'm going to talk about that now. The next thing we need to take a look at is what do they say about families, right, that are functional and those that are dysfunctional. What are the elements that make a family functional, and what are the elements that make a family dysfunctional? The elements that make a family functional, number one, is being positive when you're with your kids. Number two, doing what you say, not demanding from them to do things and you're not doing them yourself, right? Because your actions speak louder than your words, exactly. Also, they say that there has to be family time. So if you take the time to actually spend with your kids, meaning for you parents, you know, if you always say, well, there's no time, then you know what? Make time, okay? So it's just as simple as that. Make time. But Sheikhna, I can't make time. No, you can. You can make time. You can make a little less money and therefore make more time. It's just that simple. But Sheikhna, I got bills to pay. Yes, we all have bills to pay, right? But at the end of the road, if you lose this child, right, what are you going to say? I had bills to pay to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We'll find in the Islamic section, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Ahlul Bayt, they tell us that we have to spend time on our children. All right, so now let's look at, finally, of course, other than spending time, right? In the modern era of technology, you might think that you're spending time with your child or you're spending time with your family. So in the case of, you know, the sons and the daughters spending time with their parents, right? Holding this thing and saying, yeah, I'm spending time, is not really spending time. Is it, Brother Ammar? No, Hassan, right? Right? It's not really spending time, okay? It's spending time with your phone and they're there, right? I remember I was talking to a father once and he said to me, you know, I didn't spend time with my older kids because I was, you know, young and I was making my money and making my mark on this world. And so I wanted to spend more time with my younger son. He said, so, you know, I took him to the movies. You know, I made sure that I gave him money, you know, because in those days I didn't have money. Money was tight. So I, you know, basically showered him with money and with gifts just to make sure that he is nice and spoiled. And guess how he turned out? He turned out spoiled, right? Okay. Time is with your kids is not money. Okay, parents? I got your backs, brothers, sisters. I got your backs here, okay? Right? So, drop the phone. That's what the academics are telling you. And they're saying, make sure that you spend quality time, okay? When you're at the dining table, you know, there are many studies that show that families that eat together really do grow together, right? And again, that means the phones have to be off the table. Phone rings, don't answer. Hey, I can't. Well, you've got an addiction, brother, right? I'm talking to the dads. I'm not talking to the moms because I know the moms don't do stuff like that, right? Sahaj? That was like a nod, like you're attacking me and you want my my agreement. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Okay, so it's clear what a functional family really is, right? Families that eat together, that travel together, that talk to one another, that are positive, that support one another, right? These are functional families, yes? A daughter, when she knows that her brothers got her back, her dad's got her back no matter what happens, right? A father who is, you know, mindful and sits and spends the time with their kids and listens to their opinions, right? Ooh. Dawwaktini, enough. Tawashtini. Right? No, none of that, right? Okay? And we have to be very mindful as parents that when we're talking to our kids, that, you know, we always hear this from our elders, right? Just like our kids are just like the fingers on our hand. They're not all the same, right? Each one has a different function, and right? Without one, you can't really be totally functional. Your hand won't be totally functional, right? Okay? Each one has a different personality, a different character, a different set of needs, right? And we as parents have to be able to recognize that. You can't take this one template and try to apply it to every single child and say, like, why can't you be more like your sister? شوف كيف شاطرة. All she gets is A's. Be like your sister يا خيي. Why can't you be like your sister? Can you tell I used to hear that a lot when I was a child? يا خيي, my sister is one thing, a human being, personality, existent by herself. She has her own set of challenges. She has her own way of thinking. And I have my own way of thinking and my own ambitions and my own, right? Am I right? If I'm right, say you're right. So why is it that as parents, we tend to do what? We tend to treat them all the same. Well, yes, we have to love them all the same. Agreed, right? But that doesn't mean treat them all 100% the same. And what I mean by this isn't that if you get one gift for one child that you shouldn't get it for the other. No, of course, you have to do that. There has to be that equality, right? But if you spend time with one child, then you also have to spend time with another, right? If you compliment one child, you also have to compliment the other, right? If you berate one child, you also, oh no, stop there. No, you don't berate the other. Okay? Right? Okay? All right. So this is clear. Now let's look at what dysfunctional families are. Dysfunctional families could be single family households. You might say to me, but Shaykhna, I grew up in a single family household and I turned out okay. Yes, that's true. You did turn out okay. And that's a blessing from Allah that you turned out okay. But that's only because your mom had to play the role of a father and a mother. And the role of a father can never be filled. And the role of a mother can never be filled. I know a brother whose wife passed away, and now he has to be the father and the mother for his kids, right? And that's tough. That's just a testament to how strong our parents actually can be, right? And to grow up in a single family household and to come out okay, that's a great achievement, right? You should kiss the very floor, the very sand that your parents walk on, if that's the case. In all cases, of course, as we'll find out. Now, of course, more single-family households, unfortunately, aren't as lucky as some others. And the reason why is because of the imbalance in that dynamic, right? In that family dynamic. So, now that's the single family. Then you have the dysfunctions that come from other things, such as the opposites of the things that we spoke about. Being negative with your kids, right? Telling them to do things that you yourself don't do. These are big ones, by the way, big. If you speak negatively to your child, psychologists show that this actually is the reason for low self-esteem and depression. Chronic depression. So we have to be mindful how we treat our kids. Like, يا أخي شيخنا, stop talking this mental health mumbo jumbo, right? طب نحنا كبرنا بالبلاد والحمد لله. Here we are, right? For the Iraqi brothers and sisters, right? شيخنا احنا ما كان عندنا هالسوالف, الحمد لله والشكر. ها؟ حتى الحمد لله ما كان عندنا شيء اصلا بالبيت. هي طلعنا زي الورد, الحمد لله والشكر. ألف نعمة ورحمة من Allah. But you grew up in a different time, right? You grew up in a different time, in a different era. Yes, wake up to it. Different era, ERA, right? And your kids are growing up in a different era. And yes, while there may be similarities in some of the challenges, the environment, right, is very different. You live in a global environment now, right? Where if somebody sneezes in one part of the world, the person in the other part of the world hears it. Literally, on TikTok. Right? Okay? It's a different era, which means that you have to do what? You have to move with the times, right? I'm not saying, and unfortunately I've seen some parents do this, right? They'll literally TikTok with their kids. Or they'll sit, I saw this one parent sitting down and literally his kid is playing with his TikTok account and the kid was literally plastered to the screen, right? Part of the dysfunction of a lot of families are the use of electronic devices, right? Not placing, kind of incentives for using electronic devices, but rather doing what? But rather just, it's a free-for-all. You can use it at all times. There's no limits, right? No. Make your kids earn that time. What I did with my kids was, listen, you want to play on your Xbox or PlayStation? You got to finish your chores, you got to finish your homework, you get a half hour a day. Sheikhna, you're you're tough, man, right? No. I mean, you're earning it. You have to learn. You have to teach your kids to earn things. And this is one of the things that you have to do. Today, literally, there are rehab facilities for electronic and device addiction. So a huge part of the dysfunction of families has to do now with electronic devices. Now all of the young brothers are like trying to hide their electronic devices. That's okay, you don't have to hide them. Just take notes as I'm talking, so that you know what to do with your kids as well. Right? Okay, so then dysfunction, according to the psychologists, is multifaceted. And in this day and age, one of the reasons for dysfunction, other than negative talk, other than not spending enough time, quality time, right? And other than, the digital devices, is also not managing the friends that your kids have. Not knowing who they have as friends, right? This is extremely important. Right, brothers, sisters, am I right? Right? And the youth will tell you this. Like, oh, I hang out with this person and that person. You ask the parent, who are they hanging out with? They're like, I don't know who they are. La. If you don't know their parents, then you don't know who they are. I'm telling you. Okay? All right, I'm done talking to the parents now. Let's get back to our youth. Okay, so now let's move to what? To the perspective of Islam. In order for us to understand the Islamic perspective, it's extremely essential for us to tap into the knowledge base that Ahlul Bayt have given us. Okay? So Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal as-salatu was-salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, have given us the treatise of rights. Al-Imam al-Sajjad, Al-Imam Zayn al-Abidin, salamullahi alayhi, he gave us this amazing work called Risalat al-Huquq. How many of us have it? How many of you have the Treatise of Rights book or app on your phone? If you don't have it, download it as an app. Treatise of Rights, okay? Pull out your phones now. Here's a little exercise. Pull out your phones now. If you have a phone, pull it out. And in the Google Store or in the Apple Store, App Store, search for Treatise of Rights, Imam al-Sajjad, and you will find the app. Download it, okay? This is an extremely important piece of work. It's really second only to the Holy Quran. These are the words of Imam Ma'soom. These are the words of an infallible Imam. And they are the ones who are to give us the guidance that we need. When it comes to our du'as, many of our du'as, by the way, also come from Imam al-Sajjad through a Sahifa al-Sajjadiyya. How many of you have a Sahifa al-Sajjadiyya? As an app on your phone maybe? As a book? Okay. So if you don't have it, go again to your Google Store or to your App Store. Download Sahifa. S-A-H-I-F-A-H Sajjadiyya. S-A-J-A-D-I-A or D-Y-A-H. Something like that. And you'll find it. Download it. Okay? This is a compilation of all of the du'as that Imam al-Sajjad salamullahi alayhi has authored. And really with these du'as were the actual reason why the Umayyad Empire would be toppled. He used du'a because he was under house arrest. Extreme pressure was on him from the Umayyad Empire. And the way that he propagated the true religion of Islam, right? The sunnah of the Holy Prophet is through these beautiful words of du'a that help us to self-reflect and contemplate over, how we are and who we are and our relationship with Allah and our relationship with His creations, specifically with our parents and with others. And we see that the du'as actually become a practical way and give us practical steps to be able to fulfill the rights that the Imam mentions in the Treatise of Rights. So the two are actually very well connected. Now, I'm sure that in the bookstore here, right, you should be able to find both works. Treatise of Rights and, what was the other one? Sahifa al-Sajjadiyya. So, I want to start out with, yesterday you heard me mention two rights, okay? You heard me mention the greatest right of Allah, وأما حق الله الأكبر عليك فأن تعبده لا تشرك به شيئا فإذا فعلت ذلك بإخلاص جعل الله لك على نفسه أن يكفيك أمر الدنيا والآخرة وأن يحفظ لك ما تحب منها. Which means, as for Allah's greatest right upon you, for it is that you dedicate all of you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything that He's given you, right? And you do so with sincerity, right? Truly, out of wanting to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you do so, right? If you do so with sincerity, Allah will make it incumbent, compulsory upon Himself to do what? To give you sufficiency in this world and in the hereafter. And to preserve for you what you love from this world. The second right we spoke about was the right of the self, right? If I want to learn self-control, then I need to know this right. وَأَمَّا حَقُّ نَفْسِكَ عَلَيْكَ فَأَن تَسْتَوْفِيَهَا فِي طَاعَةِ اللَّهِ. As for the right of yourself upon you, for it is that you dedicate it to the worship of Allah, to showing Him gratitude and obedience, right? To pleasing Him. فَتُؤَدِّي إِلَى لِسَانِكَ حَقَّهِ وإلى سمعك حقه وإلى بصرك حقه وإلى يدك حقها وإلى رجلك حقها وإلى بطنك حقه وإلى فرجك حقه وأن تستعين بالله على ذلك. And as for the right of yourself, for it is to dedicate it all to pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to worshiping Him and thanking Him. And therefore you give your tongue its right, your hearing its right, your eyesight its right, your hands its right, your feet their right, your belly its right, your stomach, and your privates their right. And you do what? And you seek help from Allah in doing so. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Yesterday I gave you an exercise, right? I gave you an assignment. Don't think I forgot. I teach classes. I'm a teacher. You haven't noticed, right? How many of you did the homework? How many of you did the assignment? We said what? Draw a stick figure, right? With a head, ears, eyes, and a mouth, right? And I said, draw a line from each of these, the ear, the mouth, the eyes, the hands, the feet, the belly, and what would be considered the private parts, okay? And then give yourself a grade out of 10, right? And let that grade reflect how much you have really paid attention to giving each one of these faculties its right. Meaning that you used your tongue the right way, only in good manners, right? And you didn't speak when you weren't supposed to speak, right? You didn't lie, you didn't backbite, right? Give yourself a grade out of 10. That's what we said yesterday, right? For your tongue. Same thing with your hearing, right? If you listen to haram music, right? Or you listen to backbiting, or you listen to, you surround yourself with people who lie or use profanity, right? Then you're going to know, you're going to get a low grade. So you're going to grade yourself. I'm not going to collect these grades. This is between you and whom? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? This is not for me to see. So don't approach me after and say, Shaykhna, I got 100%, okay? All right? Grading yourself by yourself. No, this is between you and Allah, and be deadly honest. Be deadly honest between you and Allah. Can you do that? Yes? Good. All right, so today what we want to do is we want to see what are the rights then that I should fulfill when it comes to family. And we start with the right of the father. Now, the Imam Salamullahi alayhi, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he says, وَأَمَّا حَقُّ أَبِيكَ. And as for the right of your father, فَأَن تَعْلَمَ أَنَّهُ أَصْلُكَ. For it is to know that he is your origin. وَأَنَّكَ فَرْعُهُ. And that you are a branch from him. You branch out from him. Okay? وَأَنَّكَ لَوْلَاهُ لَمْ تَكُنْ. And if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't even exist. Relax, mothers, we're getting to you. Relax. Okay? Don't get offended. I know you might think that this is a little too much. No. First of all, this is an infallible imam who's saying, you know, these words. And that's true, because if it wasn't for the father, right, what? Every one of the women that we know would be Sayyidah Maryam alayhi salam, right? So there had to be a dad, right? Without the dad, there cannot be a child. Agreed? If you agree, say I agree. It's basic biology. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. وَأَنَّكَ لَوْلَاهُ لَمْ تَكُنْ. And if it wasn't for him, you would not exist. فَمَهْمَا رَأَيْتَ فِي نَفْسِكَ مِمَّا يُعْجِبُكَ. So, and anything that you see in yourself that you admire and you like, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّ أَبَاكَ أَصْلُ النِّعْمَةِ عَلَيْكَ فِيهِ. Know that your father is the origin of this blessing upon you. Relax, mothers, relax. We're getting to you. Okay? صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. وَاحْمَدِ اللَّهَ وَاشْكُرْهُ عَلَى قَدْرِ ذَلك, the Imam says. And therefore, show gratitude and thanks to Allah in that amount. Can you? In that amount. He brought me to this world. If it wasn't for Him, I wouldn't exist. How am I going to ever pay Him back? Right? No matter what I do, I can't pay Him back. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. And then the Imam tells me the proper formula to understand how I'm going to be able to do that. He says, وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And there is no power to do so without seeking help from Allah. So if you want to give your dad his right, then what do you have to do? Seek help from Allah. Ask Allah to help you to do so, to fulfill that right. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. All right, so number one, know that He is the origin and you are the branch, right? Know that if it wasn't for Him, you wouldn't exist. Take these down. 3, know that whatever you see in yourself that you think is great, that He is the origin of that blessing upon you. 4, thank Allah. Thank Allah in that amount. How am I going to be able to? Asking help from Allah in doing so. Got it? 5 things. And so many of them, 4 out of them at least, are what? Are mindset goals. They're really mindset goals, right? All right, mothers, now it's your turn. Get ready for this. This one's a long one. It's long, okay? The Imam says, فَحَقُّ أُمِّكَ. As for the right of your mother, فَأَن تَعْلَمَ أَنَّهَا حَمَلَتْكَ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْمِلُ أَحَدٌ أَحَدًا. Know that she carried you where no one carries anyone. وَأَطْعَمَتْكَ مِنْ ثَمَرَةِ قَلْبِهَا. And that she fed you from the very fruits of her heart, which is what? The very blood that she pumped out, that went through the placenta to you when you were in her womb. She fed you through her own blood. حَيْثُ لَا يُطْعِمُ أَحَدٌ أَحَدًا. Right? From a place where nobody feeds anybody else. وَأَنَّهَا وَقَتْكَ. And that she protected you. بِسَمْعِهَا. With her hearing. وَبَصَرِهَا. And her eyesight. وَيَدِهَا. And her hands. وَرِجْلِهَا. And her feet. وَشَعْرِهَا. And her very hair. وَبَشَرِهَا. And her very skin. وَجَمِيعَ جَوَارِحِهَا. And all of her faculties. مُسْتَبْشِرَةً بِذَلِكَ. Glad to do so. Pleased to do so. فَرِحَةً مُوَابِلَةً مُحْتَمِلَةً. She was happy to do so. Resilient in doing so. And مُحْتَمِلَةً لِمَا فِيهِ مَكْرُوهُهَا. Despite the fact she had to tolerate those things that could harm her, she still protected you with all of her faculties, happily. وَأَنَّهَا عفوا وَأَلَمِهَا وَثِقْلِهَا حَتَّى دَفَعَتْهَا عَنْكَ يَدُ الْقُدْرَةِ. And despite the pain that she felt as she carried you, despite the dangers that she endured as she carried you in her womb, despite the depression that she would go through during that time as well because of her hormonal fluctuations, right? If anybody's seen a pregnant woman, you would know, right? Until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped her to bring you to this world. وَأَخْرَجَتْكَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ فَرَضِيَتْ أَن تَشْبَعْ وَتَجُوعُ هِيَ. And so she was totally happy in going hungry as long as you were fed. وَتَكْسُوكَ وَتَعْرَى. As long as you had clothes, it didn't matter if her clothes were new or not, tattered or not, as long as you're well clothed. وَتَرْوِيكَ وَتَظْمَأ. And as long as you had your thirst quenched, She didn't mind going thirsty. She did so happily. وَتَظِلَّكَ وَتَضْحَى. And she would shade you, even though it meant that the sun would be bearing down on her and scorching her. وَتُنَعِّمُكَ بِبُؤْسِهَا. And she would ensure that you have all the blessings, even though it meant that she would have to work and go through the hardships. وَتُلَذِّذُكَ بِالنَّوْمِ بِأَرَقِهَا. And she makes you feel the beauty of sleep, even if it meant that she would stay up looking over you and ensuring that you sleep well. وَكَانَ بَطْنُهَا لَكَ وِعَاءً. And her very womb was for you a container that protects you. وَحِجْرُهَا لَكَ حِوَاءً. And her very lap was for you a way for her to encompass you and to keep away from you all ill. وَثَدْيُهَا لَكَ سِقَاءً. And she fed you from her own chest, from her own milk. تُبَاشِرُ حَرَّ الدُّنْيَا. She goes right out into the heat of this world. وَبَرْدِهَا لَكَ. And it's cold weather in front of you, protecting you. فَتَشْكُرُهَا عَلَى قَدْرِ ذَلك. And therefore, thank her in that amount. تفضل. Go ahead, thank her. Thank her. Show me how you're going to thank her. Show me how you're going to be able to repay your mother. Huh, mothers, what do you think? Was it good? Imam Zayn al-Abidin gets a huge applause. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And they say women are oppressed in Islam. Give me a break. Look at how, there's like, do you know how many points were in this? I'm telling you, at least like 16 points in comparison to the dad. He had 5. Miskeen wallah lab. 5 only. Right? So let me list these for you. So know that she carried you where no one carries anyone else. That's number 1. 2, know that she fed you from where no one feeds anyone else. Number 3. Know that she protected you with all of her faculties with optimism. Number 4, know that she tolerated hardships, pain, depression until she brought you into this world. Number 5, she went hungry as long as you were fed. Number 6, she chose to clothe you over herself. Number 7, she endured thirst as long as your thirst was quenched. Number 8, she shaded you while she endured the sun. Number 9, she ensured you were bountiful while she was struggling. Number 10, she sacrificed her sleep so that you can sleep comfortably. Number 11, her belly, her womb was for you a protection. Number 12, her arms encompassed you. Number 13, she nursed you. Number 14, she sacrificed herself to protect you. Number 15, she endured the heat and cold of the sun for you, to keep you cool in the case of the heat and to keep you warm in the case of the cold. And thank her in that amount. And you won't be able to, except with the help of Allah. Notice where everything goes back to? Allah. You can't do it without Allah. You can't do it without Allah. Say it with me. I can't do it without Allah. I can't do it without Allah. Say it again. I can't do it without Allah. And say it like you mean it. And that's the truth. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There's one last right I want to give you. And by the way, this is the coursework from the Ethics 100 class, Self-Actualization and Decision Making in the Knowledge Seekers coursework. So if you're interested in more coursework like this and learning about the treaties of rights and such details, please do sign up at the booth that's outside. There's a QR code. All you do is you scan it, and then it'll take you to a form. You fill it in, and we'll contact you to let you know when our courses will begin. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So remember how we said about our siblings, like, ya khayi, it's so annoying. Like, hal anni, اتركني, طلعت روحي. عندي واجبات. Like, leave me alone, I got homework to do already. Mom, I can't. I got a soccer game. I don't have time for this guy. Right? Is that how we should treat them? No. Look at what the Imam says about your siblings. وَأَمَّا حَقُّ أَخِيكَ. As for the right of your sibling, فَتَعْلَمَ أَنَّهُ يَدُكَ الَّتِي تَبْسُطُهَا. Know that he is the very hand that you extend. Think about it. If you want something and you ask your brother or your sister to do it, have you extended yourself through them or no? Does that make sense? Think about it this simply, right? If, let's say for example, that projector, right? I call my brother, I say, my brother's name is Muhammad. Muhammad, come over here. I want you to move this projector over here. Did I use my own hands or did I use his? Right? So he's the very hand that you extend. He's your hand. He's an extension of you, right? فَتَعْلَمَ أَنَّهُ يَدُكَ الَّتِي تَبْسُطُهَا. Know, mindset. This is what you need to know first, right? وَظَهْرُكَ الَّذِي تَلْتَجِئُ إِلَيْهِ. And He's your very support system. He is that wall that you lean on. He's your very backbone of support. وَعِزُّكَ الَّذِي تَعْتَمِدُ عَلَيْهِ. And He is your very pride, right, that you depend on. How so? Think about when you were younger, right? I don't know if this has ever happened to anyone. And then, you know, a bully is coming and they're trying to bully you, right? You don't have any siblings, so it's easy for the bully to bully you. But the other boys, they have older brothers and older sisters. And the bully knows that they have older brothers or older sisters. And even if they don't, they make it known, hey, I'm going to tell my brother, all right, who's in 12th grade and he's on the football team and he's a linebacker, you know, to deal with you after school. Right? Or my brother is a professional MMA fighter. He's in the UFC 256, if you would like to know. Don't mess with me, bro. Right? So what happens? Look at that pride that you feel, right? That pride. Or for example, when we want to ask for a girl's hand in marriage, right? What do? The men from her family and the men from our family meet up. And what happens? The brothers are there, the uncles are there, right? And there's so much pride in the numbers that we have, right? We might even bring a sheikh with us, so that they're like, we bring our sheikh, you bring your sheikh, right? Right? See that pride that's created? This is what the Imam is talking about. وَقُوَّتُكَ الَّتِي تَصُولُ بِهَا. And He is the very strength with which you assert yourself. Does that make sense? Right? فَلَا تَتَّخِذْهُ سِلَاحًا عَلَى مَعْصِيَةِ اللَّهِ. And therefore you owe him. You owe her. Don't weaponize them and use them in acts of disobedience against Allah. وَلَا عُدَّةً لِلظُّلْمِ بِحَقِّ اللَّهِ. Nor should you use them as a means of oppression by Allah, the Imam tells you. Don't do so. وَلَا تَدَعَ نُصْرَتَهُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. And if he needs help, when the whisperer, the Satans are affecting him, then don't leave his side. Don't leave her side. Be sure that you do what? The Imam says, that you stand between him and his Satans, or between her and the Satans that are affecting them. وَمَعُونَتِهِ عَلَى عَدُوِّهِ. And when they have an enemy, stand by their side. Of course, in haqq, in truth, right? Not if, let's say, your brother is, God forbid, a gangster, you know, and he's standing before the police, and you're like, I'm going to be a gangster too. No, that's not what we're talking about, okay? Right? And then he says, وَالْحَوْلُ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ شَيَاطِينِهِ. And make sure that you stand between him or her and the Satans that are affecting them. وَتَأْدِيَةِ النَّصِيحَةِ إِلَيْهِ. And make sure that you advise them. You give them good advice when they need it. وَالْإِقْبَالِ عَلَيْهِ فِي اللَّهِ. And notice here, this is very important. This is an extremely important part of the right. And when you approach them through Allah. Got it, Nimr? So when you want to talk to your brother Ali, say, Ali, by Allah. You got to get used to doing this. Ali, Muhammad, by Allah, could you do this for me? Right? You'll find they won't say no to you. Because you said what? By Allah. If you like Allah, if you love Allah, do this for me. That's basically what you're saying. So get used to doing that. If you want something from your mom or your dad, by the way, that's a great way. I'm going to give you, this little formula is really good to use. Okay? Right? I give it to the Bayduns and the Bazzis equally. Yeah? Okay? All right. So by Allah, please do this for me. So, وَالْإِقْبَالُ عَلَيْهِ فِي اللَّهِ فَإِنْ انْقَادَ لِرَبِّهِ. So, approach him through Allah, approach her through Allah, right? If they follow, great. فَإِنْ انْقَادَ لِرَبِّهِ وَأَحْسَنَ. That means that's great. If he does so or if she does so, alhamdulillah. وَأَحْسَنَ الْإِجَابَةِ لَهُ وَإِلَّا فَلْيَكُنِ اللَّهُ. Otherwise, just make sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala آثر عندك وأكرم عليك منه. So what does that mean? It means, and we finish with this. It means that, look, you're going to approach him through Allah or her through Allah. If they respond, great. If they don't respond, then don't choose them over Allah. Got it? If you got it, say I got it. وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And there's no power to do so without Allah. All right, so really quickly, the points then about your relationship with your siblings. He is or she is your hand of ability. They are your support, your very backbone. They are your pride. Number 4, they are your strength. Number 5, do not weaponize them in disobedience. Number 6, do not use them to oppress. Number 7, help them combat themselves, that self that causes them to do ill. Number 8, support them against their enemy. Number 9, stand between them and between their satans. Number 10, advise them. Number 11, approach them through Allah. Number 12, remember that if they don't follow what pleases Allah, then Allah is more important to you than even your own sibling. Make sense? If it makes sense, say it makes sense. And finally, seek help from Allah in doing so. هذا والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين والفاتحة على أرواح المرحومين مسبوقة مشفوعة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.